All right, guys, we're back again. COVID cabal, back again. COVID cabal. So much stuff going on in the world today, guys. So much stuff going on. If you are here and watching, drop a comment in the chat. You know what time it is. It is time to drop a comment in the chat. And we're gonna get covering all this recent drama. I know some of you guys are really looking forward to the takes on this stuff here. Let's get amped up here. Let's go. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It is a good morning. Especially if you were like AG out in mountain time. It's a good morning. It's a good afternoon for us over here in Europe. What's happening? What's happening? What is happening? Scott, Allen, AG. We are here. We are coming in one by one by one. We got some old crew here. We got some guys here 5 years back, going back 5 years and change. 5 years, 3 months. All right, guys. So we got a lot of things to cover. We're going to jump right into it. I'm probably going to have to cancel that other show. There's no way I can do 2 back-to-back shows. What was I thinking? Why do I try doing this? I'm going to have to get the Dynamic Man show in later because I'm going to get backed up on calls. But anyway, let's who else do I admire in my field? You're talking about the dating relationship field or the political commentary field? I think if there's the people who I usually cite here, the only 2 people who I think really stand out as people who I really respect for different reasons is in the political thought is Tom Luongo and Mike Cernovich. I don't think anybody does a better job at riding cultural currents and amplifying. Like he's a master sailor of the currents of public opinion. He's able to shape public opinion in a way, to stay relevant on the cutting edge of stuff without ever going too far. It's really an art. If you understand what he's doing, it's really an art. And he's obviously a really intelligent guy, and he has his heart in the right place. In terms of pure analysis, Tom Luongo, I think he cuts through. I mean, and I think his addition of economic analysis, financial analysis into all this stuff is really powerful. But let's get into this stuff. Let's get into it, okay? First things first, I just got to take a victory lap. What I say last COVID cabal, I said that Elon was going to end up backtracking. And that's exactly what this is. It's a backtrack. I also think, for the record, guys, you have people who are looking at this who are saying that they were, cooperating together to make something happen, that it was a plan, it was a strategy. I've still seen like zero evidence of that. They just state it as if as a fact that, see, Trump and Elon were cooperating. It's like this doesn't mean that they were cooperating, and you haven't shown any rationale for it. Now, I don't know if all these rumors coming out about why Elon had a black eye and the fights between Elon and Bannon and Elon and Miller, how true any of this stuff is. Probably it's not true. I don't know. But everything that's followed has followed exactly from the very standard, believable premise that Elon was a little jilted and butthurt, and maybe politically, didn't feel like he was gaining the appreciation or authority within the White House that he wanted, and had a started doing some outbursts and went too far with it. Backtrack, because at the end of the day, they're on the same team, and it's just personalities, big egos, personalities. You notice that Elon is now back to mostly talking about space and his companies, which I think is appropriate, right? I think it's appropriate. Anyway, I just wanted to make that point that this is like, sometimes things, guys, like I'm not saying we shouldn't ever think in terms of, we should never consider bigger picture stuff. We should never consider that there's a bigger plan. I certainly do think that there is a bigger plan, but sometimes things are really just obvious. Sometimes you don't want to overcomplicate the explanation for something because it's just completely unnecessary. And it, you know, and we're going to get into this in a little bit, the sort of like Q like godlike perspective that every single thing that happens has been planned and that there's no mistakes, and this is just not realistic. Just not how anything in the world ever works. Not how anything in the world ever works. Okay? So let's relax. Now, what was the real reasons for the LA riots? So here's some stuff that I thought was interesting. So we kind of mentioned how it wasn't really an ICE raid on illegals. It was actually a money laundering raid. So here's some of the details about that. A fashion tax evasion investigation raid was happening. That's why ICE was in LA. Over 97 million in money laundering from Mexico into California. Democrats fueled the riots the same day. The ICE operations in the fashion district, specifically targeting Ambiance apparel, were part of a criminal investigation into money laundering, tax evasion, and customs fraud. According to reports, the investigation involved a company that underdeclared over 80 million in goods and failed to pay 17 million in fees, with some of the money allegedly being laundered to fund cartel activity in Mexico. The ICE raids began around June 6, 2025, and sparked significant protests and riots in downtown Los Angeles, particularly in the fashion district and outside federal buildings. The unrest was fueled through the perception that the raids were immigration sweeps, though officials clarified they were targeting criminal activities like tax evasion and money laundering. How many California Democrats were involved in this scam to rally the whole city to riot and to have their media blasted on every channel? So, related to this, right? Tom's comment, this lends even more credence to the idea that this was a shaping operation on both sides to gauge what the other's reaction would be. Trump pushes them where it hurts, the money laundering. Do they call in rent-a-mobs? Yes. In short, this was recon. Now look, this kind of commentary is very important because it helps to underline a lot of other stuff that is happening. Okay? Helps to underline a lot of other things that are happening. A lot of us in the commentariat want to believe that stuff is very it's just issue based and focused on the issues, right? But the reality is that in this kind of fifth generation warfare, there's a lot of asymmetrical ways that you put pressure on each other, and everything is actually at this point in time in the world connected, right? It's all linked, it's all connected. So what happened in Iran is connected to what's happening in LA, because we're talking about international groups with international ties. And when you hit somebody, you hit them from multiple different directions. So when we talk about here, COVID cabal and elsewhere, about how, the plan is unfolding gradually, like I didn't screenshot this one for one of our posts, but I was saying just yesterday, people, and we're going to get to this, right? People freaking out that Trump is, cucking on immigration and he's going to go to war with Iran, and Trump's, he's captured, he's over. There's bigger. First off, I don't necessarily take all this stuff at face value, because the statements are being used for various purposes. We don't have Putin as a president. Okay, Putin is a president who always says exactly what he thinks, and he gives detailed arguments for it. Everything is on the table. Everything is super transparent. If you actually listen to anything that Putin has ever said, everything is completely consistent and straight to the point and backed up rationally and logically. Trump is not like that. Right? Trump is very shifty. Trump says very vague things. You don't know exactly what he means. You don't know why he's saying it. He says different things that are completely contradictory, right? So, for instance, maybe I should try to give me 1 second. I'm gonna try to find this because I think it's important that I read this stuff to you guys, because this people are making a very big deal about this, right? They're making a very big deal about Trump's immigration comments. Let me see here. So we have right here, Biden let in 21 million unvetted illegal aliens flood into this country from some of the most dangerous and dysfunctional nations on earth, many of them rapists, murderers, and terrorists. This tsunami of illegals has destroyed America's public schools, hospitals, parks, community resources, and living conditions. They have stolen American jobs, consumed billions of dollars in free welfare, and turned once idyllic communities like Springfield, Ohio, into third world nightmares. I campaigned on and received a historic mandate for the largest mass deportation program in American history. Polling shows overwhelming public support for getting the illegals out, and that is exactly what we will do. As Commander-in-Chief, I will always protect and defend the heroes of ICE and Border Patrol, whose work has already resulted in the most secure border in American history. Anyone who assaults or attacks an ICE or border agent will do hard time in jail. Those who are here illegally should either self-deport using the CBP home app, or ICE will find you and remove you. Saving America is not negotiable. But then, just like literally, was it the same day? He said this. He said this yesterday at 2:03 p.m. Eastern. And earlier that day at 9:43 a.m. Eastern, he says, our great farmers and people in the hotel and leisure business have been stating that our very aggressive policy on immigration is taking very good long-time workers away from them, with those jobs being almost impossible to replace. In many cases, the criminals allowed into our country by the very stupid Biden open borders policy are applying for those jobs. This is not good. We must protect our farmers, but get the criminals out of the U.S. Changes are coming. Okay. These two statements, like, people are getting really upset about them because these two statements are very, on the surface, somewhat at odds with each other. So what is actually going on here? So this is my contention, guys. My contention. I'm not going to necessarily try to analyze every individual detail of this, because I think that you can get lost trying to analyze individual details. There's no question, for instance, that Trump was getting calls from people in the agricultural industry. And remember, a lot of the Republican caucus is from farm states that depend on farm labor. Now, it's no excuse, because you can get temporary labor through various there's various visas that you can get temporary farm labor into the country. So, and there's Americans who also do farm labor despite what people say. So if your farm is using illegal labor, I don't really have any sympathy for you. I don't care. I think that you should be fined. At a minimum, you should not be getting in the way of this stuff or lobbying to keep it, and Trump certainly shouldn't be accommodating it. So am I saying that there isn't some degree of internal lobbying with Trump, and that maybe Trump isn't understanding how it's being taken? I'm not precluding any of this stuff from occurring, but what I'm saying is that Trump's strategy typically is for people to not know exactly where his position is. And that often includes us. Remember, with the J6 pardons, I'll give you an example that's very dear to my heart. We did not know if Trump was going to pardon all the J6ers. In my heart, I knew he was going to pardon all of them. I felt that in my heart because I felt where he was, but there was a lot of ambiguity about whether or not he was actually going to do it. And he did that deliberately. He signaled it because people didn't know what move he was going to make yet. They don't know what position he's actually going to end up taking. Okay. Same thing with this gold card thing, right? Trump was railing against international students. He just put Harvard on the firing line because they had all these international students. That was one of the reasons. And now he's making this comment about, Chinese, there's 500,000 foreign students in the country. We should have them stay. he's saying these comments and they're back and forth, and people are like, Trump is shifting, Trump's captured. Trump is not captured, okay? Trump is not captured. We have to have like a certain baseline grounding in what is going on. If you believe Trump is captured, then just log off, stop even paying attention to any of this stuff, and because you might as well just like give up on everything. If Trump's captured, we're fucked, okay? Trump's captured, we are absolutely fucked. There's no hope, there's no chance. I'm saying this as one of the most hopeful people in the world. If they got Trump to cuck fundamentally on America, and Trump is now just one of them, he's one of the group. Of course, let's not forget that literally a week ago, literally a few days ago, all these same people were against Trump and we're not passing his bills. Let's put aside all this stuff. Trump, if Trump actually decided to join them, he signed the deal, right? Elon signed the deal. Like, who cares? Why even pay attention to this stuff then? Like, go touch grass and go fill your bunker with food. It doesn't matter. Of course, the reality is that none of this is happening, right? And we're going to talk about this with Iran too. All of the immigration stuff, all the things going on with Trump, you have to stay anchored to what is Trump. Does Trump understand the problem? Yes. If Trump understands the problem, and Trump has been moving forward and pressing them further and further into positions and situations where they have to react, that means that even if you can't understand every element of what's going on, you can see by the way that they're reacting that pressure is being put on them. And Trump may be doing some of these things to release, to deceive and release pressure on him. Because it's my contention that Trump doesn't want to destroy these people, doesn't want to drop the hammer on these people until all the cards in the game have been played. He doesn't want to do it until the advantage that we have is so much stronger than the advantage they have, right? I'm looking fundamentally at, and that's what I've always had to do with Trump. I look fundamentally at his actions, and I look at who opposes him. I don't necessarily look at various statements he makes. Now, I'm not just trying to carry water. I think it's appropriate for people to tell Trump publicly, we don't like this. He may be doing it to see how the people respond to some of these statements. I'm not pretending to know every bit of this, but when you look at this, like I posted before about the real reason for the riots, this may not have been the moment where Trump was trying to go and arrest all the Democrats. This may have been a moment. It may have been, as Tom says, it may have been a recon operation. They're going after the money, right? Trump is going after the money. He's going after the money laundering. He's going after the cartel connections with the Democrats. And he's making them respond and react. And he may be making them respond and react and overreact at times that he doesn't exactly, that are more of his choosing than they are of the Democrats' choosing, right? That they have to set, because the thing is, when you pull the trigger on something, you can't necessarily just reel it in. If Trump baits them, so if you look at this from a military perspective, they have a certain set of defenses erected to deal with when Trump starts to move in on their strongholds. So they don't know, though, is Trump actually moving in on their strongholds now? Or if he starts to go after their money, then they have to react. So they react. They set off a whole series of plans, right? Which may very well be, I'm hearing some things, and I don't know if this is true or not, but that there may be riots. Tomorrow's Trump's birthday. There's military parade. Now we have this stuff with Iran. It stands to reason that they may continue to escalate things with these riots, because in part they're not able to restrain some of this stuff once the cells are activated. Once stuff starts to go into gear, they have to continue to move things into gear. They have to continue to move things forward because of how groups get identified. It's like you can't launch like one missile. You have to launch a bunch of them, right? You have to launch the whole salvo. Otherwise, you get no impact on it. So I don't think that they're going to stop. I think that you may see some more things going on here. Trump, however, is letting them overextend more and expose themselves more, so he has more political capital to act. This is what I think is going on. On a deeper level, and I'm not saying I know every aspect of this, but it's clear to me that this was not Trump moving decisively against the deep state, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to move decisively against them. We just don't like the tension. Guys, you remember, those of you who remember from like 2020, 2021, it was like, man, just fucking arrest him, Trump, Insurrection Act. We were so ready for it. I was certainly ready for it, right? I was fucking ready for it. I'm still ready for it, but I have more patience now. I have more understanding that, it goes all the way back to even with women, right? The more tension you're able to control, the more in control you are of the board. Now, you have them right now taking little victory laps here. I want, like, you have right here, Newsom saying Trump reversed course in immigration. We're going to hold him to it. This is because you spoke up. He's just a pathological liar. This guy is such a pathological liar. But you want them almost like, look at this. He's trying to encourage that there to be more uprisings around the country, and this stuff is going to backfire on them. It's definitely going to backfire on them. Now, I agree with people. I agree with Cerno right here, right? Where he's critiquing this stuff. And we need these kind of posts because Trump needs to see how people are responding to it, right? 500,000 visas for communist China spies, anti-American universities, amnesty for big agriculture, factory farming practices using illegals, war with Iran. This is great criticism. We should have this kind of criticism of Trump. But just because we're having the criticism of Trump, don't get hysterical and think that Trump's like, he's not with us anymore, that all this stuff is over. I want to show you guys something. We had this Democratic senator, this ugly blob, Padilla. So he runs and he rushes the Secret Service, plain clothes. No one knows who he is. So they arrest him, they throw him down, whatever. Later on, he comes in, he asks Kristi Noem, like, you have a 15-minute conversation or something. This stuff disgusts me because I'm like, I don't give a shit if he's a U.S. senator from the way he's acting, right? I don't care about any of this stuff. But I want to show you guys something. And I know this isn't like Twitter's not real life, but it's not real life. Look at this right here. We got to make sure we have our bubble. This is 307,000 likes, 60,000 retweets. Now, comments could be positive or negative. But that's a significant number of likes. So that's a significant number of people who believe, obviously incorrectly, but who believe that Trump was maybe too heavy-handed with the senator. They're not going to know the full story because you have these people lying and you have captured media. So what I'm trying to say with this is that there's a reason that Trump is not making a move now, because he knows that they have more escalation cards to play, and he wants them to play those cards without being able to significantly rise, without making him, how do I just describe this? If they do one thing and he responds like this, then they can do this next one right here, but it becomes hard for the public to see who's in the right or who's in the wrong. But if Trump is here and they do this, and Trump goes here, and then they do this, and then Trump just responds a little bit, and then they do this, and they do this. Now we get frustrated because we're like, Trump's being weak. He's not responding properly. But really what's happening is that they're blowing ammunition and they're blowing political capital every single time they do this. Every single time they up the ante. So if what we have coming next is more riots across more cities, if what we have coming next is drone attacks from Iran, like if this is what we're doing, this is what's going to be happening down the road, Trump is going to be able to do the same thing that we want him to do now, but he's going to have more political capital to do it. So the only reason, if you're in Trump's position, you make the move immediately now, the only reason you do that is if you don't have time, if you don't have operational flexibility. It's the only reason you do it. Otherwise, you can let them, and it's ego, right? It's our ego. Our ego wants a response. And it's not that we're not going to get a response. It's just that if we do it one way, it's less glamorous, but there's less casualties, right? And a siege is not a sexy way to win a war. It's not a sexy way to win a war. You want the honorable thing, right? The honorable thing is to go out, meet them on the field of battle where, stakes are equal-ish and you can settle it like men, right? Or you can put them in a siege and let them starve to death, shell them, cut off all their sources of resources, which is what we've been doing financially. And you fuck them that way. And then you force them to charge out the gates at your defensive structures when they're understaffed and undersupplied. I'm just sorry, from like a military perspective, if you can think about this, the whole world with various different domains being a battlefield, it makes a lot more sense what Trump's doing. Now, if Trump was at the end of his term and we were getting close to another election and, blah, 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 and it was looking weak, that would be a different story. But Trump's literally not even 6 months into his presidency. He has time. We're not even in the midterms narrative yet. That's why I've kept saying he has about a year to do this stuff. And I could be wrong about that. Maybe he has longer. I think that I'm right on it, obviously, but I think Layman Shepherd has it really well here. The phenomenon you're getting at is the side who escalates always has to trade some narrative control. Let's look at something. I really want to give you an example, and we're going to skip to this real quick because we didn't cover it in the last show. But I want to skip real quick to Ukraine before we get to Iran, because Iran's important. It plays into all this stuff. But I want to get to Iran. I want to get to Ukraine first, I mean. Ukraine is a perfect example of this. And this is why people have said that Putin and Trump are working together, because I think on some level they must be. If they aren't explicitly, they certainly understand. I'm not saying that they're in the same, they have identical, they're different countries. There's some degree of rivalry going on as well, but there's an understanding on a deeper level of who the real enemy is, in that they've been pitted against each other. I think that Trump and Putin both understand that very well, and they understand how this global group works. Okay? So how many escalation attempts have there been since the beginning of the Ukraine war? There's been there has been so many incidents of escalation by Ukraine. Now, Russia's numerous times gone to the negotiating table, tried to operate in good faith. They did this prior to the war as well, by the way, with the Minsk agreements. And Ukraine has sabotaged this every single time. The result of all this stuff has been a lot of frustration from people who are on Russia's side in the war, because they'd say, like, well, why won't Russia just take them all fucking out? Why won't Russia just carpet bomb them? Why won't Russia? Instead, Russia's doing very precise strikes, literally like handfuls of civilians being killed, remarkably low civilian casualty rates. Why is Russia being such a good person to it? Now, I think to some extent there may be some sentimentality. The Ukrainians are their brothers, that are estranged right now, but they don't want to They view them as being used. They don't want to kill them. I think there might be a little bit of that. But really the big reason is that Putin understands that Ukraine is in a strategically worse position than Russia, and that time serves Russia much more than it serves Ukraine and NATO, because Russia can outlast them. And so therefore, Russia should trade away escalation in exchange for better narrative control. You see, because of Russia's restraint, because Russia hasn't been doing things that were that, they haven't been doing anything that has been perceived as really egregious, specifically egregious by the Western populace. They've always come and acted like reasonable to the point of absurdity by any reasonable standard, frankly. The result is that Ukraine is losing support everywhere. People are tired of Ukraine because Ukrainians look like they are self-absorbed, delusional, don't care about anybody else. Trump is going to put the left in America in the exact same position. He's already doing it. Right now you have Padilla rushing some guards. People think, oh, he got arrested for asking a question, which is absolutely not what happened. But wait, just wait for it. Let it continue. They are not going to stop. I'm telling you guys, the left is not going to stop. They are too freaked out and deranged. And they also understand that things are coming to an end with them. This is why I keep bringing this back, that this raid was actually about money laundering. Okay? It's not just about taking away the legal immigrants, which are their voters. It's about taking away their money. If you take away their money, they are fucked. So they are going to weaponize, they're going to start to deploy their assets when you start to go after their money behind the scenes. You're forcing them to play cards that they only have a certain number of cards. You're forcing them to play it. So this stuff is important. It's important. Don't freak out about it. Trump can say a few little things here and there. All he's doing is generating more narrative control as being reasonable. But these people are going to destroy their own position. Great example of this here. This is exactly what they're doing here in Argentina with the left. More and more people openly hate them now than ever before. First time in my life I even hear normal people hating on commies. Yeah, all you have to do is let them reveal themselves. This is, by the way, I know this isn't like a dynamic man podcast, but this is how you deal with these people in real life. When you're dealing with a narcissist, the strategy to them is not to take their bait, their escalation bait. The strategy for them is just simply to reveal them, because they will do all the work in destroying themselves for you. All you have to do is create a strong boundary around yourself, and you can let them tear their own fucking life apart, because they'll lie to everybody. They'll lie to different people. They'll turn each other. People will find out. They will find out exactly who they're dealing with. So, with all this said, let us move on to... Oh yeah, I wanted to finish this up with Ukraine first before we go on to Iran. So look at some of the things that are now happening to Ukraine. So Russia's mobilizing 40 to 45,000 troops every month. Voluntarily, guys. Voluntarily mobilizing 40 to 45,000 troops a month. Now, I had heard it was closer to 30. This is what Zelensky's saying. Even if it is 30, it's still substantial. But the point here is that Russia's mobilizing these soldiers simply through standard recruiting. There is no conscription, or at least no conscripts are sent to the front. Everybody who volunteers for the special military operation, there's all volunteer forces. Okay? So per Zelensky, Russia is essentially mobilizing 50% more every month than Ukraine is, close to 50% more. So you hear this here, and then you have at the bottom here, In 2025, the first 5 months of 2025, 135,000 are mobilized. We know that 90,000 deserted over that same time period. And I'm not showing all of the figures here, but I looked through it before. Of course, you could go back to those original sources if you want to, but this is what's happening, right? 90,000 deserted, 45,000 are left. Russia claims to have destroyed 200,000, so that means the Ukrainian army shrunk by 155,000 soldiers since the beginning of 2025. Ukraine is suffering personnel shortages, and you see now Russia is expanding the front all the way in Sumy. It may be in Chernigov as well at some point later in the year. But the point is, even if you want to play with some of these numbers and you want to say that it hasn't been as bad for Ukraine, the trend is clear. The trend is absolutely clear. And one of the major things here is that for a long period of time, Ukraine had an advantage on Russia with drones. That's no longer the case. And this is obviously a very drone-heavy war. So Russia already had an advantage in artillery. By a long shot, it has an advantage in air power and bombs. Now it has an advantage in drones. Its manpower advantage is substantial and growing. So in Ukraine is also suffering a lot of domestic issues because they're grabbing people off the streets. And now you're starting to see more and more responses from the public attacking these people who are trying to forcibly, conscript. So any way you look at it, Ukraine is headed for a collapse. But let's say Russia had taken a lot of this bait, even including this last bait when it came to the strategic bombers. What's Russia's response been? It's been to bomb some NATO assets and to hit Ukraine a little bit extra hard, right? And maybe to up its objectives. But Russia didn't nuke Ukraine. Putin is been very, very restrained. He's still very, very restrained with everything. And even Trump had to, publicly acknowledge that Russia had justification to escalate as a result of Ukraine's attack on their nuclear fleet. So the point is, I'm using this. This isn't so much for me just to talk about Ukraine. The point of this for me is to show the parallels in these strategies that you are not going to see. Trump knows he's going to beat them. He knows he's going to win. He knows what cards they have to play, and he wants to make them play it on his terms, not on their terms. So he's going to bait them into doing it by increasing the pressure on them, squeeze them a little tighter, a little tighter, a little tighter. This is now what the Ukrainian government is saying Russia's goals are at the end of the war. Everything on the eastern bank of the Dnieper and the Black Sea coast. Now, I'm going to tell you that I've told you guys this before. I do not see this as a realistic map. First off, it's just bizarre looking. I mean, look at how bizarrely deep this if you're someone who doesn't like map gore, you're not going to like this map, right? Chernobyl is north of Kiev. It's got nuclear material in it. I'm telling you guys, at a minimum, I expect Russia's going to take the Kiev Oblast. I wish I could show. If you see Kiev in that little province that it's surrounded by, that's the Kiev Oblast. Everything south, the Kiev Oblast south to the Odessa Oblast east. I think that is the minimum end result of this. Because you're not going to take half of Kiev. You're not going to take half of Kiev. I'm just sorry. I just don't see this stuff happening. You're not going to take half of Kiev. They're going to have a consolidated border against the West. And it may go further than there. It may go further than there. I don't know. The only way that you'd have some kind of weird thing like this is if whatever is left of Ukraine becomes a puppet state of Russia. So it's different. It's a separate thing. But you can see this is now Ukraine themselves is saying this is where Russia expects to be by the end of 2026. This is their new goals. I mean, they're going to take what they want. And they're going to take what they want because they have not given Ukraine. Ukraine's hope was to get NATO directly involved against Russia. That was the deep state's hope, right? Because Ukraine is controlled by the deep state. So by not taking the bait, Putin has affected the strategic plans of the deep state. It's the same thing that Trump's doing with this stuff domestically. By not immediately, you can see Gavin, Newsom, they're all trying to look like martyrs. Trump is not giving them that satisfaction yet. Instead, he's making them act like very, very irresponsible people, and the public is hating them more and more and more. So let's be patient here. Now, there's the other thing. Finish off this. Arrest will come. Logic should answer why it must follow other unfolding events. Learn and spread. Build proofs. We've provided many proofs that cannot be disputed as coincidences. This was done for a reason. More will be provided. Direct confirmation will come. It cannot come now. It will be lost. The message is not ready. You are part of the army. We are depending on you for God and country. Where we go one, we go all. Stay safe this week. Q. Okay, so Q's telling you to be patient. Maybe you don't give a shit. Whatever. But just keep posting. Keep posting, guys. Keep posting. If you keep posting, things will be all right. Now, let's go related to this, to all this stuff has been, the big news here, which is the Iran strikes. And as usual, you're hearing the same stuff that, Trump is cucking on Iran. He's controlled by Israel and blah, 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 blah. Well, first off, let's say a couple things. The first is that Trump has been purging his administration of Zionists. That is well established at this point in time. Trump also warned ahead of time, signaled that, was putting all the, this was 2 days ago, that there was going to be, that there was they put all the stuff all the U.S. assets in the Middle East on high alert. So that was something very clearly that, to me, was undermining Israel, because it was telegraphing that an attack was coming. And then after the attack came, you had Rubio say directly that the United States did not participate in this attack and was not involved with this attack, and, don't attack U.S. assets, basically. Now, we got to say credit where credit's due, because by all accounts, Israel's attack was super successful, literally wiped out everything that Iran has. And this is important because, I want to say this. I've said it before on shows, but, I am not a Zionist. Okay? I'm not a Zionist. And I know a lot of the very bad things that the Zionists have done to the United States. And I hate the capture of American politicians. And I hate that they're flying Israeli flags. It's not disrespectful to Jews. It's just, I'm an American. I don't want any country's flag flying in a congressional office. Okay? It's disgusting to me. Because I have that opinion, don't think for a second that I don't think Iran is a piece of shit. Okay? Iran is a piece of shit. It's a piece of shit. Just because one of these countries isn't good doesn't mean the other one is good. This is why I can't stand a lot of and I get it. They have an axe to grind. They don't like the United States. They don't like, if you're Russian or you're part of the BRICS, you have to show solidarity with Iran, and, US and Israel, they're always together and everything, blah, 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 whatever. The bottom line is that just because I don't like how Zionist governments in Israel behave doesn't mean that I like Iran. And I'm going to give Israel credit where it's due. Just objectively speaking, it looks like a very beautiful series of strikes. They had drone bases inside Iran, and they stopped these bases. These drone strikes destroyed, apparently, Iran's retaliatory measures. I mean, now there's more points to this, right? That do we have these same things inside the country? I think we do. And I think that Iran has cells inside the country as well. So that's what I mean. Is there a connection between the timing of these LA riots and the stuff with Iran? I think that there is some degree of a connection between the two things. I definitely think that there's some degree of a connection. And, there's no reason to think that we don't have terror groups inside the United States, given the border that was so open, and that some of those terror groups are connected to Iran, in that they are going to do terror attacks against targets in the United States. And this has the dual purpose of destabilizing Trump, but it also has the purpose of trying to like reconsolidate the US-Israel coalition, because now, we're both against Iran. Iran's trying to get after both of us, and they try to get America into a more hot war, World War III, whatever. There's all sorts of angles you can take with this, but the bottom line is, I think it's a big coincidence to say these things are not connected to each other in some way when you view it as one big deep state. So these attacks, though, they were very successful, and I think it just has to be said that from the looks of it at the moment, Iran looks pretty pathetic and weak, like really a paper tiger, because whatever they sent, they fired a few little missiles back at Israel, and these were really ineffective. Israel intercepted all of them. Lebanon's now telling Hezbollah that they are not allowed to attack Israel. That was never the case before. So what you're seeing here is that Israel has done actually a very good job of neutralizing enemies in the region, but you're not seeing the same kind of U.S. support that you saw in the past. I mean, anybody who's like, Israel has been really doing a lot of this stuff by itself at this point in time. Now, if we go to, let me see here. I don't think I have the screenshot here, but so talking a little bit more about this Iran strike and the relevance of it, there is, hold on a second, I got to get this. There's a big file here I wanted to show. Okay, here we go. While it may look like our enemy's goal is a decapitation strike on Iranian military leaders prior to all-out war, it isn't. They're going after the key counterparties in Trump's peace deal. That deal was done. That deal was going to close on Sunday. Despite appearances, Khamenei isn't the sole decision maker in Iran. I'm just going to try to skip through this. You guys can read it, but they're basically saying that the nuclear scientists were involved, and these scientists were the ones who were assassinated. So it's the heads of each faction in Iranian power politics here: Iranian Revolutionary Guard, official political structure, Army, Air Force, key scientists. Just like they assassinated the head of Hamas during the height of ceasefire negotiations, the Iranian diplomats in Syria that were negotiating Hezbollah ceasefire, etc. Netanyahu lost his government yesterday. His coalition has split. He's got a 6-month reprieve in parliament, but it's a done deal in 6 months. The Orthodox have already resigned from the cabinet. They refuse to be drafted, and the IDF is cooked already unless war breaks out. 6 months the rope in U.S. I'm sure we'll get a lot of Dom bros kvetching in the comments about Trump pulling out a chair, but the evidence for this is legion, and frankly, I don't care, because the past 3 years have been right, many times have been wrong. U.S. security posture became in a few hours before Bibi attacked what it should have been in the last 3 days if they were actually concerned. So the bottom line is what this person is saying here. And to be honest, to be fair, I don't know where they're getting this like knowledge that there was a deal. I've seen Trump's posts, right? Let me read Trump's post about Iran. So I gave Iran chance after chance to make a deal. I told them in the strongest of words, just do it. But no matter how hard they tried, no matter how close they got, they just couldn't get it done. I told them it would be much worse than anything they know, anticipated, or were told, that the United States makes the best and most lethal military equipment anywhere in the world by far, and that Israel has a lot of it and much more to come, and they know how to use it. Certain Iranian hardliners spoke bravely, but they didn't know it was about to happen. They are all dead now, and it will only get worse. There has already been great death and destruction, but there is still time to make the slaughter, with the next already planned attacks being even more brutal, come to an end. Iran must make a deal before there is nothing left and save what was once known as the Iranian Empire. No more death, no more destruction. Just do it before it's too late. God bless you all. So this obviously sounds very pro-Israel, although it's almost like he's saying that Israel's the one doing it. He's not saying that the U.S. is doing it. He's saying that he's acting as if he's a middleman. Now, I understand a lot of people on the outside are going to say, clearly, Trump is not, America's not acting in the middleman position. But I want you guys to think about it from this perspective. Iran was given 60 days to make a deal, and those 60 days have expired. They expired earlier this week. So the attack happened after the 60-day period. So I don't know if it's true that there was going to be a deal made on Sunday. I don't know the answer to this stuff right now. But there is definitely a big push going on to get the United States involved in a war with Iran to have this thing escalate. But I don't see the Trump administration actually being involved like that. I think the most we can expect, the absolute most we can expect by the end of all this is a few bombs dropped. But I think it's more that I don't know if Israel scuttled a negotiation or if Iran was dragging their feet because they're bad faith actors too. I don't know the answer, guys. I don't know the answer to it. But what I do know is that every other sign that we've seen, whether it's in Ukraine, whether it's with the Democrats, whether it's with Israel, Iran, has been that Trump is not getting involved in this way. But there are periods where he has very, very strong rhetoric that almost makes it seem like he is. And I know that people don't like it because they want to take all this stuff at face value, and they want to doom post about it. But I think that you're going to see, as stuff shakes out, that, oh wait, Trump's actually not doing what I was worried he was going to be doing. Like, we thought this was happening before. And then the result actually was that a lot of the Zionists were just getting kicked out of his administration. So I see a lot of desperation going on here. And I don't know how it's going to shake out. But I think we're still in a really good position. And, keep posting your stuff if you want to keep posting your stuff. Well, the thing is, he hasn't done anything yet. He's doing exactly what I was worried he'd do. He hasn't actually done anything. Israel did this strike. And I'm sorry, I don't think that America provided a substantial amount with this. I think that America was aware of it. I don't know if they were aware of it because Israel told them. It's a game that I wouldn't necessarily be very good at playing, the way that Trump does this stuff. But with every single thing I have seen with Trump for like literally 10 years, you just have to wait and see how it shakes out over the coming days and weeks. You can't ever take a single statement that he makes and draw deep conclusions from it, because it's just not his style. It's not how he works. He's trying to maintain a position, because you look at all the Republicans in Congress, they're all saying, I stand with Israel, I stand with Israel, I stand with Israel. They're in a delicate position on the surface. But him and Bibi, make no mistake, him and Netanyahu do not like each other. They don't like each other. This is the one thing I'll say about this. In 2016, he did nothing because he had no one around him who he could trust. I don't think he's playing people at all. He has no benefit to be playing people. He has no benefit to doing it. You know, he's like, if he wanted to play people, he could make a lot of money. It could have been a lot easier for him. They would have welcomed him with open arms. He was, he was one of the big celebrities, billionaire celebrity marketer. He's exactly the kind of person that they would have loved to use to implement their agenda. And instead he went against them and they hate him. So, I mean, look, this is the way it is with anything in life, guys. Just going to say it. And I'll go down saying it. Even if I'm wrong, I'll go down saying it. You got to have some degree of faith, especially at this point. I think in the first term, it's like it was reasonable. You know what I mean? I think in the first term it was reasonable because we could see that he was surrounded by the wrong people. We could see he was getting captured. He was captured, but we could see that the administration was captured. And I actually think that that's one of the reasons he didn't pull the trigger to begin with when they stole the election, because I think he gradually came to realize that he couldn't trust anybody around him. He was completely outmaneuvered. But this is a different game now. He's got a good cabinet. He's got a really good cabinet. I know people aren't loving, everything going on with Cash or with Bondi. I'm still giving it some more time. I just think that it's a different game now. And yeah, you just got to have some degree of faith. We've come too far. The bold grays in the ear. We've just come too far with all this stuff. You just got to trust the plan, guys. What I'm trying to say. You got to trust the plan. And look, I'm going to give one more little example of this. Similar kind of stuff where things that look bad initially, people were giving RFK Jr. so much crap about the vaccines. Like, oh, he got in there, and then look, this vaccine's still on approval. This vaccine still went forward, and it's totally over, and he's captured. And what happened? I mean, he just fired the entire 17 vaccine approval panel, and he put Robert Malone in charge. So this stuff happens, guys. It happens, but there's various stuff that's put out to mislead not only us, but to mislead other people. And there's also a lot of timing and backroom deals. You just have to trust that the people who took these positions, people who spent their lives saying certain things at great personal cost, that when they are put in a position of power, you just have to trust that they didn't turncoat on you. You have to trust it. You can criticize them, and it's important to criticize them because that gives them, that public criticism lets them know where the public really is at, and it gives them actually political capital to do what you want them to do, even if it's difficult. But don't think that, if you want to think that they've just betrayed you, like I said, there's nothing you can do then. It's over. It's over. If anybody gets in there and they're compromised, it's over. I don't think Cash, I don't think Dan, I don't think even Pam, I just don't think that these people, certainly not Trump, RFK, these are people who really put a lot on the line for a very, very long time. And if they're in these positions and they haven't done something yet, there are only two explanations, really. Assuming you don't have any proof or strong evidence that they took a deal. And you'd see that because then they'd start to really put out talking points against what you wanted, and you start to see payoffs, right? What you get actually is that they are blocked from doing something that they want to do, or that they're having to run their own misinformation campaign for strategic reasons. It's only two things it comes to. And I see that all the time with them. So let's wait and see what happens. Keep the pressure on, but let's wait and see what happens. I think that's it, guys. I think that's it for today's COVID Cabal. I don't have a lot more for you, except for this last thing I'm gonna put forward. I'm gonna put this last thing forward. Hold on. There's one more thing I want to show. Just want to make sure this is it. Maybe it's not worth me trying to find it. I don't know. Is this it? Okay, whatever. I'm not going to show it, but I'll tell you it. I remember because I remember it. Basically, if you are a citizen, if you are a naturalized citizen and you are involved in any kind of insurrection or attack against the United States, if you are involved in any kind of you know, let me get the specifics here. I want to say it very, very specifically because I think it's important. Where is this here? Hold off a second, guys. The U.S. Code. Naturalized citizens can have their citizenship revoked for participating in insurrection or rebellion. There's no statute of limitations or time limitations whatsoever. So that's interesting. We may see some of that coming in the future. And guys, the astrology is also backing up all this military stuff going on. So that's some more interesting things. It actually says it should intensify all the way up to the 18th. For whatever that's worth. Anyway, gentlemen, I will see you guys on the next COVID Cabal and the next maybe Dynamic Man show, which I had to cancel today. All right, take care.